So, John, how do we feel about this Mariner team as we get closer? This feels like a very crucial homestand. Looking at the Royals for 4 games, the Pirates for 3, before you hit the road to face the Yankees and the Tigers, who are arguably the 2 best teams in the American League. So, to me, I'm looking at it going, you got to make hay here. You got to cling to that 3rd wild card spot like grim death. You don't let that go. It's a 1.5 game lead right now after you lost last night. It's a 7-game gap behind the Astros. So I'm not saying the AL West is out of the question, but maybe the more realistic path is that wild card spot. So you got to hang on to it, which means you win these series. You take 3 of 4 from the Royals. You take 2 of 3 from the Pirates. Is that expecting too much of this club? Is that with as uneven as they've been? How do you view it?
No, it's exactly what they need to do. Listen, I'll begin my State of the Mariners statement with the following, that you need to make the playoffs in the American League in 2025. It is all there for you. The Boston Red Sox are a non-factor right now, and you should be able to finish comfortably ahead of the Los Angeles Angels. I mean, if we're really being honest here, when you look at this team, you've got one of the 2 best players in the world right now, in Cal, in terms of everything that he's doing. And then your rotation is coming back together. Gilbert on the mound tonight. You need to win this series. And then you need to win the next series. And then you really need to play competitively. And by the way, take advantage of what has been a slumping Yankees team.
Yeah.
So if we're being honest here, the Astros, they continue to defy gravity. What they're doing, it's unbelievable, honestly. But now helped by Hunter Brown, best ERA in Major League Baseball right now, by the way. Sub-2. He's been unbelievable. So there are reasons why they're still really good.
Right.
But the important thing is the Seattle Mariners absolutely, without question, should be, need to be, are, in terms of the players on the field, one of the 6 best teams in the American League this season, period. And they just have to play like it. That's it. And playing like it means you win the series against the Royals, you win the series against the Pirates, and listen, the Tigers aren't going to be this hot forever. By the time you play them, you should be able to get some games off them. That's what I see. So I think it's this team. I think Canzona's given them a boost. I think that's been a really big piece of the puzzle. But eventually, they need to make a move for a bat. And I said this week on MLB Network, I think Eugenio Suarez to the Mariners is as obvious of a fit as there is, in my opinion, in baseball in terms of a trade. He's been there before. He's had success there. He's having a great year for a team that's probably not going to be a buyer. That's the kind of move you need to make. And we have seen, by the way, the Diamondbacks and Mariners make $1 billion deals in the past. So we know their front offices work well together. Again, it's easy for me to say here, sitting here on July the 2nd, but that's the trade that probably should happen between now and July 31st.
Yeah, I heard Bump and Stacy, the show before us. I thought Bump brought up a great point that what's that do to Ben Williamson? You know, if you do bring in Suarez. And everybody, I mean, we love Eugenio. I mean, just a gem. He's got a great arm. He's crushing it right now. But as far as Ben Williamson goes, what do you think that does to sort of curb his development?
It's a fair question, but if being sent down to the minor leagues once is going to totally disrupt your trajectory, then I've got questions about your overall potential at the end of the day. I mean, being sent back down to the minor leagues, I realize it's not great, but Francisco Alvarez has been sent down to the minor leagues. Josh Young was just sent back down to the minor leagues. I mean, this Roy Halladay years ago was sent to the minor leagues. Max Scherzer, I was covering the Tigers when Max Scherzer was sent back down to the minor leagues. So this happens. And if that's the way it goes, at the end of the day, a team that's going to be able to beat the Tigers in a playoff series or beat the Yankees in a playoff series, there are certain things that you look at about a team that need to be true. Your third baseman has to be able to hit more than 1 or 2 home runs in a season and bat higher than probably 9th. That's it. And it doesn't mean that he's not ever going to be the third baseman of the Mariners. When I was talking to the Mariner folks in spring training, I said, man, Williams has really come on and hit. He actually probably has arrived a little sooner than expected. So there's no shame in, again, if a dude who comes in and hits 30 home runs a year and Suarez comes in, there's no shame in going back down to the minor leagues, getting retooled and coming back, and then making an impact later on in the year. Matt Shaw, Cubs third baseman, made the opening day team, and basically 6 weeks later was back in the minor leagues. I mean, this is a tough business. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of different ways to organize your team and to make it work, and I get it. But it's rare that a team makes it to the World Series or wins a couple rounds of the playoffs getting fewer than 10 home runs out of the whole season at third base. It just doesn't happen very often. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it just is rare. And if that's the way your team is built, you're probably getting a ton of home runs somewhere else. And again, Julio is not doing that really for you right now in center field in terms of hitting the type of home run power we saw from him a couple years ago. So it would not be Ben Williamson's fault, but you have to get enough production to win games, and at a time of the year especially, the postseason becomes a bit of a home run strikeout kind of a game because of the power arms, and you better be able to elevate the ball, hit some home runs, and Suarez can do it, and Williamson right now, I'm not saying he won't ever do it, but right now it's just not happening.
Something that's gained a little steam out here is, one of our local writers, Adam Jude, wrote about the potential of Alex Bregman being traded by the Red Sox. Do you find any reality in that they could? I know he can opt out after this year, so the idea that he could, play elsewhere for the remainder of the season, he could go back and re-sign with the Red Sox on a new deal certainly after the season. But could you see them trying to pull something like that where they trade him, get some prospects, and then try to sign him in the offseason? Or is that not even realistic to you?
It's complicated. And I would say of the two guys we're talking about here, Suarez makes a ton more sense than Bregman. He just does. Now, Bregman, it has nothing to do with how I feel about the player, because I think Alex might be in the Hall of Fame one day. But he can opt out of his contract, and so that just intrinsically makes it more complicated. And baseball, unlike hockey and basketball, we rarely see the whole sign and trade thing happen. Sometimes it happens in this sport, but it's very rare. And so you've got the Red Sox saying, hey, you've got this great guy, he's basically a rental, but you can maybe bring him back if he wants to opt into the final 2 years. What a great offer and package this guy is. And the Mariners are saying, wait a minute, I'm not going to give you prospects with the expectation that I'm going to have him for 2 more years beyond this year without knowing that I'm going to have him for 2 more years. That just does not, the way that it's such a razor thin thing for teams now, how they evaluate prospects. They're so protective of them. For them to give those guys up without knowing exactly what you're getting back is, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but you're just asking for the needle to be thread backwards and forwards blindfolded in a way that I just think is too complicated, in my opinion. Now, could it still happen? Sure it could. But it's just a really complex transaction and a very expensive transaction because it is potentially a really large contract. It would have to be the right team that was willing to take on all the risk and go for it all in 2025 with very little of the potential down the road. I mean, this is almost like a New York Mets kind of a trade. That and again, the Mets, by the way, they have to focus on pitching. So the Red Sox being open-minded to listening on it, sure, 100% that makes sense. I just think that it's going to be too complicated to get it done when there are other options out there that are much cleaner and easier, which is what the contract of Suarez is. It's expiring and it's manageable.
Hey, JP, we've been talking quite a bit about, Cal Raleigh taking the practice home run derby and his dad, throwing the pitches and his brother catching and really cool. But then he goes 0 for 4, and as Bob pointed out, not just 0 for 4, 4 strikeouts. Nobody's panicking here or anything like that, but any concern there? Or, it just raises a question, I think people love to talk about, apparently, because we've gotten lots of texts about it.
The darn home run derby jinx. It's I
Bobby
suppose
Abreu's coming back to haunt everybody.
That's right.
it's a thing if you want it to be, I suppose, right? And that's
I like
it has been a talk radio phenomenon. By the way, the Abreu one was 20 years ago. I was there. It was actually the first All-Star game I covered. It was 2005.
Oh, wow.
Back then for the Seattle PI bet, by the way. But
by the way, we do have just a quick breaking news. Cal Raleigh has earned the start in his first All-Star game. MLB just tweeted that out. So he is the starting catcher for the American League, officially.
deserves it. Amazing news for Cal. And again, the part of, and this is again one of the reasons why I do give a tip of the cap to Aaron Judge, to Shohei, to those that are in the spotlight year after year after year after year. Where do they do the Derby every year? Maybe not, but they've got reporters 40 deep or 50 deep at the All-Star game every year.
Yeah.
This is I'm not going to give some big speech on the price of fame, but this is kind of part of it. You're now one of the most talked about players in the sport. You're going to get invited to do stuff. And I think the one thing that makes it different for Cal, and I'm not sure how this is going to net out. I'm just saying it's different, not better words, different. He's a switch hitting catcher. And there's just not a lot of guys who do what he does and are that level of elite and are going to get asked to do the home run derby. I mean, Rutschman did it, obviously, in Seattle, but it's just switch hitting catchers with power. There's a reason why he's one of the most valuable people in the whole sport, and that's why. So, well-deserved for Cal. By the way, I love, Bob, the Rainiers hat. That is awesome. Cheney Stadium, love it. So that was actually one of the Tigers' new public relations executives, Colin, came from Tacoma. So we were standing on the field at Comerica Park a few weeks ago talking about the joy that is Cheney Stadium. So how about that? So Cheney Stadium has been talked about in Detroit here this season, but I love the Rainiers hat and wanted to make sure I acknowledge that.
Thank you.